What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. We are here breaking down this Monday Night Football Showdown slate for DraftKings and FanDuel, and we have a good one. Finally, it feels like all the Showdown slates we talk about are always some pretty rough games, so it's kind of hard to find some talking points, but no shortage of that because we have tons of fun players to talk about in this AFC West showdown between the Kansas City Chiefs at home in Arrowhead taking on the Las Vegas Raiders in what should be a pretty high-scoring game. We currently have a 51.5 point over-under, 7-point spread in the Chiefs' favor, and I always love games with Patrick Mahomes because he's one of my favorite players to watch. But anyway, if this is your first time here, what's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel, and I'm also a contributor over on Stochastic. If you've seen my face before, maybe that's the reason why. But what I do specifically in these showdown videos, we go through each position, kind of categorize it by team so it's nice and orderly. I'll put a lineup as we progress through it just to see what fits, and then I'll run my optimizer at the end, seeing what pops the most as of right now with projections, ownership projections that I currently have for the slate. And if you would like access to those projections and the sheets and all that fun stuff in the Discord community, link can be found down below in the description for that. I do cover other sports as well if you are interested. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of the show, PrizePicks, because they do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you're new signing over on the website, you can use promo code CPENN, an instant deposit match bonus up to $100. It is free money, no strings attached. Please use it to your advantage. Go to prizepicks.com. You can use the link down below. But with that being said, I think that'll be it for the plug. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And as always, we will start with the quarterback position. And both these guys are certainly going to be in play. It's not a matter of if we're going to play these guys. It's a matter of how much and how much in the captain spot. Now, obviously, Patrick Mahomes will get the edge here, although he's $2,000 more than Derek Carr. But both have defenses that can certainly be beat through the air. We'll start with Mahomes here first, though. He comes in at $12,000 on DraftKings, up to $17,500 over on FanDuel. If you're playing over on FanDuel, he's going to be the most popular captain by far. I mean, same can be said for DraftKings, but on FanDuel, since the price doesn't get multiplied in the captain spot, you're just going to end up with a lot of Patrick Mahomes in the captain spot. I'm perfectly fine with that. Now, the question becomes on DraftKings, do you want to captain Mahomes a lot, or do you want to get some of his pass catching options? Because for Mahomes to go off, I mean, some of these pass catchers have to have fantastic games because while, yes, he is athletic enough to run the ball a bit, he's not someone like a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen that can just absolutely destroy a game on the ground by himself. So we're going to have to get some pass catching options with him, obviously. And I'm going to have more interest in the Chiefs more than anything here because they do have the 29.25 implied team total compared to 22.25 for the Las Vegas Raiders. But Mahomes, he's been great this year so far. 275 yards per game, nearly 3 passing touchdowns, 7.6 yards per attempt, and close to an 80% completion percentage. And if you look at the matchup versus the Raiders, I do not care about the matchup for whenever the Chiefs play. I mean, they're just good enough offense where they get the job done anyway. But it helps that it is a good matchup because the Raiders are allowing the 5th most points per game to the position in their 22nd DVA versus the pass. So yes, I will have a lot of Mahomes. I'll have a lot of him in the captain spot, but I'm definitely going to try to get a lot of exposure to guys like Travis Kelce or just the other random options he has at wide receiver. And that's kind of the tough thing because you don't really know where the ball is going to go outside of Travis Kelce. He's going to get his, but after that, it can be a bit messy. But this is really just a long-winded way of me saying, yeah, I'm playing a lot of Mahomes. I'm probably going to try to lock him. I would not mind having 100% Patrick Mahomes on this slate. If he dies, he dies. But I will be happily going down the ship with Mahomes because I trust him more than any other player in the NFL to get the job done. And then Derek Carr, $10,200, a little bit of a discount here from Mahomes, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily cheap. And there's other good skill position players on this slate, like Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce, where you're going to start to run out of money pretty soon. So you're going to have to decide who to cut out. Now, I am going to try to get a lot of Derek Carr, although probably more so in the flex spot rather than the captain spot. Because if I am rostering Derek Carr, I would rather get a guy like Adams in the captain spot because Derek Carr, for him to go off, it's going to have to be one of these skill position players going off with him. And then moving over to our lineup, not doing anything too fancy here, although I guess the question is if I'm going to put Mahomes in the captain spot. For this build, I'm not going to just because I want a little bit more flexibility. So we're going to plug in Mahomes in the flex, and then we're also going to try to grab Derek Carr. Now, I'm going to want either Adams or Kelce in my lineup as well, so we're going to run them really quick if we do that, but as of right now, we still have around $7,000 per player, and I think we'll be able to make it work. And then moving on to the boring part of this video, we have to talk about the running backs. I know everyone wants to play the pass catchers, as do I. I'll probably be underweight on all the running backs here, but they are going to have at least some interest from some people here. And we'll start with the Raiders first because it's easier to talk about because it's one guy. Nobody else is fantasy relevant in this offense in the backfield other than Josh Jacobs. He comes in nearly $9,000. He plays all the snaps pretty much. Not quite all the snaps, but nobody else is just getting touches in this offense. Like, yes, you have Brandon Bolden, you have Amir Abdullah. They're pretty much splitting passing down work, and then you also have Jacob Johnson playing a boatload of snaps. Thing is, though, he's the fullback, and he's just not going to get fantasy relevant touches. Maybe he gets a target. maybe, but you better hope it's around the goal line and it happens to be a random touchdown, which does happen a lot on Showdown slates. So maybe don't completely take him out of your pool because he's going to be on the field at least, but I would not expect any fantasy points from him in this one. And the game script is terrible for Josh Jacobs. If he's not going to be a favorite, I mean, it's tough because he's just not that involved in the passing game. And they're 7-point dogs on the road in KC. I can see the Raiders getting down in this one. If that's going to be the case, they're going to throw the ball more than they can, then maybe they want to, rather than just grind it out with Josh Jacobs. So if you're playing Jacobs, you basically need him to score a touchdown. If he does not score touchdowns, you're usually not happy with the output. And at nearly $9,000, I'd kind of rather spend a lot of my money more so on the quarterbacks or guys like Adams and Kelsey. So I'll probably end up being underweight on Jacobs. And if he happens to score like 2 or 3 touchdowns, it is what it is. Hopefully I'll have enough to at least have a couple lineups that are at least decent. Then moving to the Chiefs here, it's a revolving door here. There's 3 guys that are going to be fantasy relevant. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at $7,400. He sees the most of the snaps, at least he did last week. Other than that, it's really Jerick McKinnon who was seeing a ton of snaps. We have Isaiah Pacheco, I believe that's how I would pronounce it, $4,800. He is the rookie. Doesn't see any work in the passing game whatsoever, but he does look decent on the ground when he does get opportunity. He's at 5 yards per carry this season, similar to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then we also have Jerick McKinnon at $3,000, who doesn't do a whole lot. He gets a handful of carries here and there, but just under 2 targets per game. Plays a decent amount of snaps, but was down to 20-ish% last week compared to the 40s that he was seeing in the weeks prior. Now, Edwards-Helaire is going to be the one you want. Now, he's only getting 10.5 carries per game. He has been efficient with those touches, and he is involved in the passing game, just over a 10% target share on 3.5 targets per game. And if you're the RB1 on an Andy Reid-led offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, you're going to have some relevance. But if he does not score a touchdown in this one, similar to Josh Jacobs, you're probably not going to be too happy with the output because it's not like he's that cheap. He is $7,400, but he's a 7-point favorite at home with a 29.25 implied team total. That would tell you to play the RB1 in this offense, and that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'll still probably end up being a little bit underweight just because it could be anybody that scores touchdowns on this offense. And I think I'd rather get a more so main pass catcher to pair with Mahomes. And moving on to the wide receivers, we will start with the Raiders here first because their wide receiver is about double the price of anybody else. But I get it. It's Davante Adams. He is really good at the game of football. He comes in $11,400, basically playing all the snaps. You have Hunter Renfrow returning this week from the concussion at $5,800. Then you have Matt Collins at $5,000, who was the wide receiver 2 in this offense, playing just about all the snaps. He's going to take probably a bit of a back roll here. Now, I still expect him to play a good chunk of snaps. Even with Hunter Renfrow playing in the first couple of weeks, Matt Collins was on the field a lot, so he's still going to have a role. But I would expect the targets to go down for him for sure because Renfrow is always going to be a decent part of this offense. Then nobody else really relevant here. We have just 3 receivers. I expect Keelan Cole to just basically not do anything anymore because he was playing over half the snaps. And with Hunter Renfrow being back, I don't really think the Raiders are going to have any use for him because then you also have to put in that Darren Waller is going to get plenty of playing time and targets as well in this offense. But anyway, Davante Adams, he should be able to eat in this matchup. I mean, 32% target share in the season, nearly 11 targets per game, but only catching about half of those. 17 receiving yards and nearly a touchdown. And the Chiefs are 24th versus wide receivers and 21st DVOA versus the pass. I expect the Raiders to be trailing in this one. If that's going to be the case, I mean, Adams is obviously the perfect run back option here. Although, I mean, using the word run back is kind of weird for a showdown slate, but I think you guys get the idea of what I'm trying to say. Hunter Renfrow at $5,800. He's the guy that's going to pop a lot for me at this price point. I believe he had 10 and 6 targets, I believe, the first 2 weeks. Not 100% sure, but I know since he's averaging 7.5 targets per game, it's somewhere around there. 21.5% target share and pretty much plays all of his snaps in the slot. I just like the price point here. I would expect him to get a handful of targets, maybe approach 10, depending on how game script goes in this game. Now, obviously, most of the attention is going to be on Davante Adams, so Renfrow should be able to get some easy, just kind of safe routes or possession routes for the most part. So I'm liking Renfrow at this price point a lot, and I imagine when we run the optimizer, he's going to pop quite a bit. And then Matt Collins at $5,000, while I don't think the targets are going to be there anymore, I still think he's going to get targets. He's going to be on the field. It's just not going to be as much with Hunter Renfrow playing now. But he would be an interesting tournament option because I am expecting some pretty decent ownership on Hunter Renfrow. So if you're looking for the pivot, he's $800 cheaper. I still don't mind Matt Collins, but for some upside. And then moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs, this is where it gets a little confusing, similar to the running back situation, because like I said when I was talking about with Patrick Mahomes, besides Travis Kelce, I'm not really sure where the ball is going to go. I know it's going to go to somebody, but I'm not exactly sure who and when it's going to be. But looking at these snap counts last week, we saw Juju Smith-Schuster just under 70%. He came in at 63%. MVS came at 69%. Mecole Hardman at 46%. Justin Watson just under 20%. And then we saw Sky Moore go from 13% in week 3 up to 28% in week 4. So maybe they're getting the rookie a little bit more involved, which would be nice to see at $2,400. The question mark here, though, is that Juju Smith-Schuster is currently questionable for this game. His hamstring tightened up during Saturday's practice. Andy Reid did say he's optimistic that he's going to play. And if he does, he would be the main wide receiver one, at least I would expect in this offense. Looking at the target distribution this year, Juju leads the way with a 20% target share, MVS at a 17% target share. Then we saw Mecole Hardman under 10%. Sky Moore, I do not have on here for some reason, but he's under 2 targets per game. And then Justin Watson, a target and a quarter with a just under 4% target share. So yeah, it's pretty spread out. But if Juju happens to miss this game, that is going to bump all of these guys up. And it makes guys like Justin Watson and Sky Moore some pretty decent value plays. As far as picking these guys, I'd love to lie to you and tell you I know. But honestly, I am not sure. So I would just say whoever fits. That's not a focal point for me to go out and play Mecole Hardman on this slate. It really all comes down to how much money do I have left remaining in my lineup? And if I have Patrick Mahomes, let me try to find a pass catcher that fits to pair with him. So moving back over to our lineup, as much as I'd love to plug in Davante Adams here, I'm not sure if he's going to fit. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm plugging Kelsey in the captain specifically for this build. And if I plug in Adams here, and then I plug in Kelsey in the captain spot, yeah, that's just not going to work, unfortunately. Only $100 left per player. So we cannot go that route. Now, if you wanted to take out Derek Carr and plug in Davante Adams, we could certainly do that. I'm not sure exactly which route we're going to go yet, but the one guy I want to plug in for sure, it's going to be Hunter Renfrow. I just like the price point a lot at $5,800, and let me see the exact targets. Yeah, 6 and 10 targets. So 5.1 points in week 1, 11.9 in week 2. It's a good game script for him. I think he's going to get some checkdowns, possession. He's a possession wide receiver. You're not really expecting a big play from him, but it is possible. We have seen it in the past. $5,800 though, plug him in. $1,700 left per player. Throw in an expensive Kelsey. Might be a little bit tough, but we'll see what happens. Then moving back over to our lineup, it's pretty easy here because it's just Kelsey and Waller. Yes, guys like Graham Fortson do see snaps, and while they're always okay for the potential just random goal line touchdown, outside of that, it's really hard to trust them. But Kelsey's going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate, and I have absolutely no statistics to back this up. But I just think from memory, I always remember Kelsey smashing the Raiders. If I'm wrong, someone can tell me, but I just feel like I have a strong memory of Kelsey always going off versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I know that means absolutely nothing for this, but I just think that's how it goes. 8.5 targets per game this season for him, 25% target share, which leads all the pass catchers, 26% market share of the team's air yards, and don't really care about the matchup ever for Kelsey, but the Raiders are bottom half in the league versus the tight end position so far. This is just me pretty much saying, yeah, I'm playing a lot of Travis Kelsey, going to be one of my highest players in the entire slate. I know, shocker. Darren Waller at $7,200. He is not as involved in the offense this year because of the addition of Davante Adams, so he no longer is going to get just an enormous amount of targets, but he's still getting decent volume for a tight end, but it's only a 16.5% target share these days, but still a decent 23% market share of the team's air yards and 6 targets per game, but just hasn't been as great for fantasy as he has been in seasons past. But I do think he's an interesting tournament option. So in some of the lineups that you do not have Davante Adams or Hunter Renfrow, I think one of these pass catchers is at least going to have a pretty good game for the Raiders. So I would try to get some exposure to Darren Waller. And the game script would suggest that they're going to have the ball a little bit. Then moving on to defenses, it's probably going to be a pass for me here. If I had to play one, it would definitely be the Chiefs. But there's no chance of playing the Raiders defense. The Raiders defense is optimal. I guess I'll take the L, but I just do not see how that's possible. And if I'm going to play nearly 100% Patrick Mahomes, a ton of Travis Kelsey, it makes absolutely zero sense for me to play the Raiders defense, so I will X them out. I will have 0%. Chiefs, we'll see if they end up popping a little bit, but I think this is going to be an overall pretty high-scoring game. And then as for the kickers, I think they're decent for their price points. Matthew Wright, I mean, the Chiefs kicker is always going to have an opportunity to get points because they're going to be in field goal range a lot, and you're just always going to get extra points. I am projected for around, I believe, 8.5, close to 9 points at $4,000. That is not bad. Carlson at $3,800. He's a pretty good kicker. It's just, I mean, they are what they are. If they hit their field goals, they hit their field goals. If they don't, well, then they don't. You just can't project kickers really, but I assume the Chiefs are going to be in scoring position quite often tonight. So I'll be having a good chunk of Matthew Wright. And the Chiefs defense, I wouldn't say is elite. So Daniel Carlson and the Raiders should be able to move the ball a bit and at least have scoring opportunities. And moving back over to the lineup to finish this off, and please don't copy and paste this. I built 150 every single showdown. I have no idea which one I'm going to like the most. I'm just trying to see what fits as we talk through it. In the lineup that I think would make sense for at least maybe a tournament or a cash game build. We're going to plug in Kelsey in the captain spot. That leaves us $2,900 for the last 2 spots. That's not great. I wish we had a little bit more money. Maybe we take out a guy like Derek Carr, but I kind of wanted him in this build. Although I just don't think it's going to work out. So I might just take Derek Carr out here. We could just go with the Chiefs onslaught. If just assuming Juju plays, we can play Juju. We could play MVS. Then we have 3 pass catchers with Patrick Mahomes. That leaves you 4,200 bucks for the last spot. You could plug in the Chiefs defense if you wanted. You could plug in Wright the kicker, but I'll let you guys use your imagination for that. And as I said earlier, I went on the optimizer here at the end to see who is popping the most as of right now with the projections. I don't have any group set up, randomness, or anything like that. We're just raw dogging it to see who is popping the most as of right now. I don't have any ownership projections up yet because we still have to do the Sunday night game that has not started yet. So I'm doing this a little bit earlier, but those will be updated for those of you that do want access to the optimizer. Link can be found down below in the description, and those get updated throughout the day. And it looks like we got the 152 crunch here. So let's take a look at the statistics that we got. So let me sound so we can see who's flexing captain. But yeah, that's well, I guess you can't see the number now. But anyway, a lot of Renfro, not surprised about that. That price point's so easy to fit in. His targets are going to be safe, and he's like the obvious option if you do have a full-on Chiefs onslaught to run that back with. Tons of Mahomes in the captain spot. That's 60%. I don't think I'll go that high. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense. He's the highest projected player for me. A lot of Derek Carr in the flex spot. A lot of Juju, a lot of Mahomes. Now, since I have so much Derek Carr in here, I think that's why Travis Kelce's getting nuked at only 25%. But that's one of those things where if you are doing 150 lineups, you'd have to manually trim that down to maybe, let's say, like a 40-ish to 50% Derek Carr to add in more guys like Travis Kelce, add in more guys like Devontae Adams, if that makes sense. With that being said, that's all I got for you guys for tonight's video. If you found it helpful in any way possible, make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, because I'm here doing this each and every single week for all the showdown slates and the main slates. But with that being said, I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.